Welcome to Buckeye Scoop Live. It is Scrimmage Saturday. We have our reports in. There's a lot of buzz from today's scrimmage. It wasn't a full scrimmage. It was more of a practice with some scrimmaging at the end. So it's not the traditional like full game type deal, but it was a very interesting day to say the least. We were getting live updates from inside the Woody Hayes. They were outside practicing, but some guys made some moves today. It's interesting. You always got to take with a grain of salt in the spring when you have guys held out like Marvin Harrison, Mecca, Igbuka obviously is out for the whole spring. Julian Fleming's out for the whole spring. Trey Henderson. So I think the defense, from what I've been told, was better today than the offense. But the offense won the wonky scoreboard, 102 to 100. Again, I think that those really don't mean much. I think that the defense had a nice day. But we had some nice plays out of the offense as well. So with that being said, as always, thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you guys on your Saturday as we gear up for some great college basketball tonight. Joining us briefly, talk about the scrimmage. I'm excited to get Nevada back in here. So if you guys enjoy this content, leave us a like and click subscribe. Nevada, today was a great day. Kind of the first big test for the offense, minus CJ Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Paris Johnson, Dewan. You had Josh Farr at left tackle. You had Zen and Teague at right tackle. Kyle McCord and Devin Brown rotating with the first team quarterback. What were some of the things that you've heard from some of your people that were at practice today? Basically, who stood out and who's got a ways to go?
Well, I think, first of all, I think this was a great day for Ohio State. I think some guys really took some big steps forward, some guys that we really haven't heard from or been only hearing about, in practice and having them a chance to get it live. And when there's contact, when the bolts are flying, it was, really exciting to see that. And look, I could go through a list of guys. We'll start with some of the young wide receivers that are got the, Jaden Ballard obviously had a good day, big touchdown pass on a double move against Jordan Hancock. Caleb Brown playing well and catching the ball. Even Geese Scott at tight end made a big catch, got hit, held on to the ball. That was a nice play for him. For a guy who's been kind of hearing it, but up and down. You mentioned the offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Kenyatta Jackson looking good. Mario Bohr, the backup, looking good. Caden Curry, Jordan Hancock, Davison. Like I said, I could just go on and on and on. But, I really think the only question mark in my mind about this team is going to be quarterback. It's the only question that we have. I think McCord and Brown both had good moments today. Devin Brown carries himself well. I thought he played better in the beginning. McCord played better at the end. But I think it's really only the quarterback position. And, I posted that the other day, and one of our great posters, Buck15, put, hey, Georgia won 2 national championships with Stetson Bennett at quarterback. So both these guys are every bit as good as Stetson Bennett and, hopefully a lot better. But I really think it's the only question I have. I think offensive line, we've got dudes up and down the line. Even George Fitzpatrick got his black stripe removed. You mentioned Tegra. You mentioned Zen. You mentioned Josh Fryer looked terrific today at left tackle. Carson Newton's got a hammer lock on the center position. So no, just a great day for the Buckeyes, and just great to see so many guys stepping forward and making the present. 2023 is going to be an outstanding season. I just can't wait for it.
Totally agree. And the offense looked the part today, and that's without their top guys. Marvin gets held out of the scrimmages. Emeka's not doing anything. Julian's not doing anything. Trey Henderson's not doing anything. Mayan Williams not doing anything. So, you're talking about guys that are either All-American caliber or first or second All-Big Ten caliber guys. Every one of those guys I named could potentially be first or second team All-Big Ten. Obviously, Marvin and Emeka likely first team All-Americans. Trey Henderson could easily be a first team All-American. So, I agree with you. I think that this wasn't as heavy of as a scrimmage as we've done in the past on a Saturday, but I think that it shows you the depth of the team, the competition of the team. Jordan Hancock running ahead of Davidson. I don't know if that'll hold true through week one, but I think that when he's the guy that you recruited here, he committed here, you got to let him run with the ones first and have Davidson go with the twos and sprinkle him in, especially in the era of the portal, because there are some guys that aren't in the mix, and they're definitely going to be on the portal watch. But I think that Josh Fryer has been a big story in spring ball. Josh, I know Josh really well. He's a great kid. He's a grinder. He is an absolute film junkie, football junkie, technician guy. Obviously, people have their doubts on Josh. I think that fuels guys like Josh. Because obviously he has huge shoes to fill with Paris off to the NFL, but he's the same age as Paris. I mean, he's just had to sit behind him for a few years, but there's some of these guys that they've got that chip on their shoulder where Paris was a guy that started early, played early. He's gotten all the awards, and now Josh gets to take his turn and kind of take the torch from that same recruiting class as Paris goes off to the NFL, likely a top 10, 15 pick. And I think Josh is going to have a great year at left tackle. I really do. And I think that he's a guy that you could ride in an ink at left tackle. Again, he had the ACL a year and a half ago. Seems like he's all the way back. He's a tough kid. Again, and I think that with Justin Fry, putting him and Donnie next to each other, you feel really good about the left side of the line. I think Carson Hensman might be the story of all of spring, just because he has emerged as the guy. It's unfortunate for Jacob James that he's missing spring right now, because he likely would have been the guy. But hey, I mean, Carson Hensman, is taking that torch and running with it. It's a lot like kind of like the Harry Miller situation, where he was the presumptive center, and obviously he had to step away from the game, and Luke Whippler took the torch and just ran with it, and he became an early entry 3-and-out center, which is an extremely rare thing in college football. And he could easily be a second round pick in next year's draft. He's had a fantastic circuit on at the NFL Combine and at Pro Day. So, like it's all about when preparation meets opportunity, and spring ball is a time where guys like Jaden Ballard get more turns with the first team, because you've got Julian out, you've got Emeka out, you've got Marvin out. So, Jaden came in with Marvin and with Emeka, and those guys are both top 5, top 10-ish picks, and Jaden hasn't played at all. So I mean, he's kind of got that itch right now where it's like, hey man, these other guys are shining and getting the big deals, and they're going to be in the NFL next year. Like, it's his time to start doing something and participating. And for whatever reason, the coaches don't trust him at all. But he had a huge touchdown today. He scorched Jordan Hancock. I literally got that in real time. I got a text, and it was like, all right, well, I mean, we heard this in bowl practice, kind of the same story. I heard it last fall. So whatever reason, hopefully he's starting to earn the coach's trust, because the coaches didn't trust him last year. No matter what he did in practice, he just kind of would stand and watch, even when Marvin got hurt against Georgia. So who else stood out to you, Nevada? Because like I said, I got about 50 names today of good and bad and ugly and whatever, but a lot of good, a lot of guys kind of having a resurgence, a renaissance, so to speak. Who are some other guys that stood out to you?
Well, like I said, I'll start with the bad. I mean, I really didn't get too many bad reports. The only guy that I thought, had heard looked a little out of place was Cutler, the transfer. I heard he got blown up a few times, and I think that's to be expected. But everything else was really, really positive, and that's just so rare to hear in one of these things, because usually it's a mixed bag, or with so many question marks on the offensive line, you'd hear Mikowski was bad, or Tegra was bad, or Hinsman was, I mean, Hinsman, people are raving about him at center, and this guy's a freshman coming in and playing center for Ohio State. I mean, that's crazy. And the fact that we've got 5 guys starting across the offensive line, all from out of state, is just wild to me. I was just so happy to hear the guys that are buried up a little deeper on the depth chart starting to play a little bit better. Even Ben Crispin had his moments today where he played well, did some things nice out there. So no, I mean, look, this was a great day. You're always worried about these scrimmages. You're always worried about injuries. You're worried about guys looking bad. You're worried about being a clown show, and it's anything but that. Ryan Day has kept that momentum going from the Georgia game, where I think you really do. I think he did find some things out about himself, and I think Ryan Day is really relishing the fact that he's not going to be caught up in the minutia of the play calling. He can take a little bit more of a global CEO view, and I think this practice was reflective of it. So no, well, like I said, lots and lots of guys played well today. It was just a great day for the Buckeyes.
I think some of the fascinating things, obviously, the right tackle battle with Zed and Tigra is something that's fascinating to me. The fact that Tigra, was a left guard last year, and Zen was a left tackle back against Paris last year. I think in hindsight, Justin Fry wishes they probably would have played some more right tackle last year because it is a transition going from the left side to the right side, especially at tackle. So I think that takes some time. And plus, if those guys, are getting beat a little bit, I mean, they're going against JT Tuimoloau is likely a first round pick after this year. I expect him and Jack Story to make huge jumps. I think Jack, there probably isn't a happier guy on the entire team than Jack Story that he's actually playing defensive end now. The Jack has been scrapped, at least for him. He's back to doing what he loves to do and being a productive pass rusher like he was in high school. And I think that's kind of, that's going to be a renaissance. Like if you put Marvin Harrison Jr. in like the Mitch Rossi role as like a blocking tight end or whatever, like he's not going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. Like putting Jack Sawyer at basically like a linebacker-ish type position instead of defensive end, it didn't work, and I think that he's going to be excited to be back to where he is. I'm excited about Mike Hall, excited about Tyleek. I think obviously there's got to be a couple more of these defensive tackles need to step up because we are really thin there. We got 3 guys that can play right now, and guys like Hero Canoe and some of these others, they got to get going. I mean, you need some depth back there. The defensive end thing I think is really interesting because Kenyatta Jackson was a South Florida Express guy. They know him real well down there. They think he's a freak, and those guys don't. They've been around the block. They've seen a lot, so it's not like they throw that around super loosely. But yeah, I love spring ball because when guys are dinged up, you get to see some guys in elevated roles. Like Cody Simon gets to start this spring, because Tommy Eichenberg's being held out, so he gets to run with the ones, and you get to really see a good look at him versus our top units and see what he can do. Because I think that the seasons keep getting longer and longer with the enhanced playoffs and. They added the Big Ten title game, 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was. And I think that like you need depth. And when you see Jaden Ballard running with the ones and doing some good things and getting his confidence up, I think that there's you get a little extra juice when you are running with the first team as opposed to the twos or the threes. That's just kind of what it is. You're literally going against the best guys on the other side of the team. And I think it's important for these guys to take their turns. But I'm excited, that the defense, what was standing out today. I'm excited that the defensive backs are getting their hands on balls. Now, I don't know if that's because they've just been drilled to death on that, or if it's because we don't have the pinpoint accuracy of CJ Stroud, or it's a little bit of both. But I'm excited that they're kind of getting their mojo back. So I feel like that they were kind of whipped dogs last year, and they just didn't have the normal confidence that you need big time defensive backs to play with. I felt like they were shell shocked and. They gave up some massive plays just because I think that they lacked confidence by the end of the year. So it's going to be fascinating to see how much we see from Davison. It'll be fascinating to see how much we see 3 corners because that's something that has been mentioned in the Woody Hayes is that they're going to start running a 3rd corner and the nickel passing downs just so we get a little bit more coverage out there. And I love that. The safeties. The bandit, which is basically the strong safety, was actually Lathan Ransom today. The adjuster was Josh Proctor, and then the nickel was Cam Martinez Nevada. Do you think that will hold true week 1? And if it does not hold true, who do you think potentially could move to where, either from the second team or to different positions?
Well, you can't have a discussion about the defense without talking about Sonny Styles. And because I know that's on everybody's mind. I mean, Sonny Styles, they lined him up everywhere today. They lined him up, rushing the passer. They lined him up at linebacker. They lined him up at a walkout linebacker. They lined him up at strong safety. Lined him up at free safety. I mean, think Isaiah Simmons from Clemson, or one of those guys that just they move around all the time. That's really what they're doing with Sonny Styles right now. If you ask him what position he played, his answer would be defense, and that's pretty much what they're doing with him. He's a freak out there. He is a guy that you just notice when he walks out on the field. You notice him when the game's being played. They will find a position for him, but right now they're literally putting him all over the field, and it's fun to watch. It's fun for the fans to watch, and it'll be something that it'll be fun for everybody to watch come fall because he's a great player, an impact player, and they're trying to feature him all over the field, trying to put him in as many good spots as possible. So I think he'll definitely factor into this whole, 3rd corner, 3rd safety, strong safety, bandit, adjuster discussion. Probably be certainly at the top of that, top of that discussion, and rightfully so because he's a terrific player and had a great day today.
Sonny is he's going to be a 3-and-out guy. He's kind of like, if you're Ryan Day and Jim Knowles and the coaching staff, you got him for this year and next, and that's it. And he's out. It's like Paris. Like with Paris, I mean, they had a plan in place where he's going to be a 3-and-out player. So, I mean, they graduate as early as possible, play as early as possible, get to the league as early as possible. So, you gotta use that kid. Again, that's why some of the dumbest people on earth would talk about us playing 4 tackles. I'm like, what? You're not gonna play Paris Johnson, even if you got to stick him in at guard when he's a top 10-ish O lineman. I mean, come on. So that was it'll be interesting to see what role Sonny has. I think he has to have a role. I think there's a lot of guys that need to have roles. I think that Cody Simon needs a role. We're going to take a couple questions. I see one about Cody. And it's going to be fascinating to see how you work in some guys. Gabe Powers showed up today. CJ Hicks showed up today. I mean, there's guys that, they're getting into year 2 and 3 and it's time to get rolling. And, you got to find a way to either rotate some of these guys in or get them bigger roles. Again, for the Mitch roster role, I think Reed Carrico would be great there. I don't think they've done that move yet. I know they wanted to do it last year, and he said no. But he's getting in, deeper into his career, and it's time to start making some moves. I think, I just think it's exciting to know these guys are getting after it. That it's competitive. Like again, I know there was some stuff about the second team online, but like I've been on second team lines. I've been a coach at Ohio State. We've never had a good second team line, like ever. And defensive line is so much easier to play than offensive line. So that's just kind of how it always is. Nevada, there was a lot of talk about Kyle McCord versus Devin Brown. I personally think Devin Brown is handicapped when we do these area sacks, touch sacks. Reminds me, honestly, a lot of Troy when he was competing for the job because, Troy is a guy that could create on the run, make plays, scramble, break teams' backs. And, when you do the touch sacks and the black jersey thing, you don't get to see that. And for some guys, that's a huge part of their game. How big of a handicap is it for Devin Brown when he can't create on the run in scrimmage situations due to the black non-contact jersey and the touch sacks?
Well, it's a huge handicap for him. I mean, that's really one of the strengths of his game, and really one of the things that he really brings to the offense. That's a decided difference from Kyle McCord. And it's fun watching that quarterback battle because I'm getting. I shouldn't say it's like conflicting reports, but everybody has an opinion when they go out and watch it. I have some very good sources that are like McCord will be the guy. He's going to be the guy. It's no question about it. Then I've got other people that are like, man, watch it. Devin Brown just makes plays. He moves the team. The team really responds to him. I love his body language. I love his swag. I love the way he keeps his head up when he throws a bad pass. I think McCord's, a little bit more like CJ was early on, where maybe drops his head a little bit when something doesn't go right. Don't like the body language. So you're getting different things from these quarterbacks. And like you said, one of the quarterbacks' main attributes is his ability to extend plays with his legs. And if that's taken away, then it really, it really limits his usefulness, from its, full potential. But I think this is going to be a great quarterback battle, and I think it's going to go down to the wire, truly go down to the wire. Like, we always talk about one of our core beliefs with our website and with this podcast is to give people the straight stuff, not the stuff that Ohio State wants you to have, or not the stuff these fat guys on the beat are talking about and talking about what they have been told to recite. I'm telling you the truth. I do not know who's going to be the quarterback. If I had to bet, I'd bet McCord. Been there for 2 years, connection with Marvin. I would bet that would be the guy. But Devin's making it tough, and Devin had a very good day today. They both had good moments. And so, no, I think it's a true quarterback derby that we're going to see that's going to go into the fall, and it's going to be something to watch.
I agree. And again, like with that position, I think, we've seen, multiple quarterbacks used in certain seasons, like when JT got hurt and Dwayne had to come in. And, I think that you need two. I think you got to keep them both happy, keep them both here. Honestly, I like Devin Brown's upside more than McCord. I also think McCord, like if you put a gun in my head and said he's going to be the day one starter, I think it's going to be Kyle McCord. But I like the guys that can create on the run. I think he's got, really, really exceptional athleticism, and he can really move the chains. And, again, when you're at Camp Randall and it's tough and it's loud and, tackles laid off the ball or whatever, and you gotta get away from a guy. Like having that extra burst is just enormous, and it's much harder to defend in my opinion. So, but it'll be interesting. Chip Trevanham and Dallin Hayden were the two guys that carried the mail today at running back. Dallin had the winning score in the little fake scrimmage. It was like I said, it was 102 to 100 because they do these kind of stupid. If you get a sack, it's a point or 2 points. If you get a first down, it's 3 points. Like so, the scores like are always kind of fixed so that by the end it's like a 2 point game, and whoever if it's like 4th and 1, offense scores, they win. Defense stops them, they win. So they always kind of like rig the score by the end. They always find ways to give points to each other, even if some teams getting crushed. Like there's always kind of like a rubber banding system for to get the score to be close at the very end. I mean, Urban used to do that. Trussell used to do that. Ryan does the same thing. So it's not really like a true sporting event. They just they kind of rig it up so that it can be competitive on the last snap. But like I said, I love what I'm hearing about the defense, about Jack, about the interior offensive line. Doesn't surprise me if Vic Cutler is struggling. I thought that he's an athletic kid, but he didn't seem like he was a super strong kid. I watched a lot of film on him when he committed. Really athletic for tackle, but you got to be kind of a bull in the middle if you're going to play center, especially against guys like Ty Lee, guys like Mike Hall. You really got to be like a heavy lower body guy to be able to hang in there versus those guys. And it's tough. The transition from tackle inside to center isn't easy. It's a much higher level of competition. And, when these guys have bad days, I mean, you got to remember, like, Mike Hall's as good of a D tackle as there is in the country. Like, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, that's as good as they're going to see all year. Like, I mean, I don't know who in the conference is better than JT Tuimoloau or Mike Hall, but maybe there's somebody, but I don't know who it would be. So, you always take it with a grain of salt if our DNs are getting off, because you're not going to see guys like JT very often unless we play like a Bama or a Georgia or a team of that caliber. So I think they get through no major injuries. A few guys held out. Again, keep Marvin Harrison Jr. in bubble wrap until the season starts, and I think we're good to go. We'll take a couple questions. Nevada.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. Cut yourself out there, Kurt.
I got you, my man. Tager versus Zen at right tackle. Who do you got?
Boy, that's tough. I mean, that is. I mean, boy, gun to my head, I'm going to say Zen, but Tager had a good day today. Tager played early last year. I know that they like Tager a lot. He's lost a lot of weight. He's definitely on the all body transformation team. That's a tough one. Gun to my head, I go Zen, but Tager had a big day today, and I thought really threw his hat in the ring for that right tackle spot, and that's another one that's going to certainly go to at least the fall, and maybe into the early part of the schedule.
Yeah, I think I really like Tegra, but I think Zen's the guy right now. I think Zen's got to switch his. He's got to get that footwork right, because it's tough going from left tackle to right tackle. I've done it before. So he's the guy that I know works hard. He stays after practice pretty much every day. He's got guys like Donnie in his corner. The thing about this offensive line room is they're really a tight crew, really good guys in there. So it helps as you're switching sides or doing things that guys have gone through that same stuff. And I think that Zen, he's got the tools. Taker might have more upside though. He's like, again, when you saw him 2 years ago, I thought he looked a little fat, a little out of shape. But when I saw him last year, literally I was at Adriatico's and he walked by and I said hi, and he looked like he was in great shape. And that was not the guy that was at Lakota West. I mean, he's put in a lot of work, or Mickey forced him to do a lot of work. Because I know that when guys show up and they're not in great shape, Mickey and the O-line coach and GA, I mean, they put in a lot of extra work, a lot of Saturday cardio sessions and extra cardio sessions. And, you don't get to keep that fat on you for very long at Ohio State with Mick and the dietitian team, because they will grind you down and get that fat off you in a hurry. So, but I like them both. I think Zen is the day one starter as of today. But again, it's like I say, and there's a lot of practice, a lot of time. There's injuries that happen. Like, again, if you had said, In during bowl prep, who did I think would be the starting center right now? I'd say Jacob James, but he's out. So if you're out, it's tough for them to pick you to be the starter unless you've got a lot of tape and you've got a big lead in the competition. So Carson Hinsman's kind of taking advantage of Jacob James being out, and it's got to be driving Jacob absolutely crazy because he was kind of it's kind of his turn to be the starter, but. If you're not, the best ability is durability. So if you can't, if you're not healthy, and again, not saying you did anything wrong. I was injured. I've been injured. And it's painful to see somebody in your starting spot when that's going on. Uh, well, I mean, I don't know what else we could say about Davison Igbinosun. I think he's fantastic. I think he's been a breath of fresh air. I think he's a dog. I've heard he's a great kid from guys on the squad that have told me about him. But what are your thoughts on Davison, Nevada? I feel like we talk about him every day, but he's a kid that we needed to have. I feel like in the past with portal kids, this is the kind of kid that like we would miss on, but we actually got this one, so that was actually a great surprise in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on Davison, Nevada?
No, I mean, you talk about keys to the defense for 2023. I think the acquisition of him singularly was the single biggest thing that could happen for the defense this year. I mean, it took a position of weakness, turned it into a position of strength, and he really rubs off on the other guys. It really, I don't think it's coincidental that you're hearing about guys like, Jordan Hancock and the other name has escaped me. Who's the fourth defensive back?
Oh, Jair Brown.
Shire Brown.
Yeah.
I was going to say Jade Ballard, and I'm like, no, I know that's not right.
Jake Ballard.
Jake Ballard, yeah, exactly. But anyway, I just don't think it's coincidence that you're hearing about that because Davison is so good, and when you see him, all you have to do is watch him in some of these drills. You don't have to be like Joe Football or Timmy, recruiter guy. You can watch him and you're like, oh, okay, when you're watching the real deal, and he's the real deal. Big acquisition. Might have saved a coach's job at Ohio State. Probably got him a raise, and really the key to the 2023 defense. So no, couldn't be more excited about Davison.
Yeah, he might be the most lucrative guy ever because Tim Walton, people thought he was out the door. He got a huge raise, got a bigger title. So thank you, Davison. Appreciate you. What else we got? We got some other good ones. We got CJ Hicks question, Cody Simon. Oh, you got someone watching from Jordan. Awesome. Appreciate you, my man. That's awesome. That's about as far away. Thoughts on Tigra and George Fitzpatrick losing their black stripe? My initial thought was it's about time. Because they've been here. I think Tigra was here last spring. I think George was here last spring. So they've been here for a year, and they didn't lose their black stripe at all last season. So I would have had a major issue with them. Like if I was coaching them, like guys, like what are we doing? Because you want to be you don't want to have that stripe on your head for very long because it is kind of demeaning. But they lost it a day before Colonel Tate's been here for 3 months and he lost it, and they'd been here for a year. So I'd have a chip on my shoulder about that. Them not thinking you're good enough to lose your black stripe, but they both lost it yesterday. And then Carnell and Davison lost theirs today. Again, it's kind of a choreographed thing. They feel like kids earn it, but then you sit in the staff meeting and guys kind of get nominated for it by coaches, position coaches, whatever. And but it's not just like a scheduled hey, it's time for it's like they have to build some stuff up in practice and the off-season workouts and that type of thing. So it's a little concerning. It took them a year to do it, but not every kid's ready to rock as soon as they get to campus. But I'm happy that they both got the straps off. But yeah, I would have been nuts if I was in George Fitzpatrick's shoes and I saw my stripe on after being there for a year. But that's me. I always had a chip on my shoulder. But that's something that it was interesting that they pulled it off, and I'm glad they did because those guys are fighting for jobs, and both those guys are literally one play away from being in the mix. You knock on wood, Josh Fryer or Zen go down. Those guys are our starting tackle, so it's got to be go time for those guys. There's no time for them to wait around and wait to be good. We had a question on Cody Simon, my man Paul. Paul, I hope you're feeling good, brother. How is Cody Simon doing? Nevada, you want to take this one? He's one of my favorites. He's been one of my favorites for a long time, but your thoughts on how Cody Simon's on from what you've heard?
Cody Simon's been playing great. Really been playing great. Really making the most of the fact that Tommy's out, obviously he's not going to take Tommy's job, and Steele was all over the place today and outstanding, but Cody's right there. I mean, when you talk to the coaches, they almost refer to him as like the third starter at linebacker, just because he's so good, he's so versatile, does everything well. Really, he's a tightly wound kind of guy, and so he had some lower body injuries, then he had some shoulder problems. But when he's healthy, Cody's as good as anybody. I mean, Cody, we've talked about this before, but I really thought Cody was going to be the next great linebacker at Ohio State when he first came in, because he's a different kind of athlete. But he's having a chance to show it now, and as good as our linebacking core is, he's going to see time because he's just demanding it, because playing very well, a guy they want to keep out of the portal, a guy that they're going to have to keep on the field, and I like Cody Summin a lot.
Yeah, he's a guy. I mean, he's a high 4.4 guy, low 4.5 guy, 40 wise. I mean, he can fly. He's explosive. He's tough. But again, 2 years ago, I mean, his shoulders both had to have major surgery. So when you play linebacker, that's about as devastating as it gets. So I think it's all about health with Cody. I think it's health and opportunity. And I think if there was more of a thought to rotate some guys a little bit more. From Jim Knowles and James Laurinaitis, I think that he'd be a guy, because he can play both spots. He can play Mike and Will. Mike's obviously Tommy, and Will's obviously Steel Chambers. But I think that if you put him in, there's going to be little drop off. Obviously, Tommy was an All-American last year, fantastic last year. He'll be a preseason All-American, preseason Buckus, finalist, I'm sure. But I really love where Cody's at. I'm glad that he's getting healthy. And I think he's a guy who's got a lot of upside. He hasn't been productive on the field, largely because of injuries, but I think he could really have a huge year for us this year, and be a core special teams guy as well. I'm gonna lock this thing down. CJ Hicks, it's interesting. There's a lot. Our boy Gabe Powers from right nearby in Marysville, Ohio, was balling today. CJ Hicks is a guy. Again, you've got this kind of glut of linebackers, and in the modern structure where you really play two linebackers 95% of the time, it's easy to get in a logjam there. But Nevada, what's CJ Hicks's future look like?
Well, I mean, it's bright, but like you said, it's just it's really just a question of getting him on the field, and you're hoping that James Laurinaitis' impact, like you said, will make them more comfortable rotating some guys in there and moving some of the different guys out of necessity, as well as kind of by design. But when we talk about safeties of Josh Proctor and Lathan Ransom and Jihad Carter and Kai Stokes, and your linebackers are Tommy and Steele, and your cornerbacks are four deep, as we talked about. We're talking about putting Sonny Styles on kind of this hybrid monster man position where he kind of rolls around. Well, CJ is kind of in the same boat. They're just trying to find a place for him on the field, and they're trying to keep him as active as possible and as connected to Ohio State as possible. But it's just hard because there's just so many good players, good veteran players in front of him right now. And so it's nothing that he's not doing. It's just that there's a lot of veteran, experienced, really talented guys in front of him. And I just think he's going to have to be patient.
Yeah, I thought he would be a candidate for the jack position. I don't know how much we're going to use the jack position. And frankly, I don't know how much of because the jack position is almost two separate positions depending on how they feel like deploying it. If it's an early down thing versus the run, it's more of it's almost like you're a big nose guard and you're taking out blocks. Like you kind of follow, you line up over the guard, you're kind of off the ball between the linebackers and the defensive linemen, defensive tackles. You're not quite breaking their heels. But, if a guard pulls to the left, you kind of follow them and kind of make the pile and fit. And you just kind of, you're basically designed to be a pain in the butt for the blocking schemes, because they have to account for you, and you're going to basically go to wherever the ball is going to be at. So you're always creating piles and that kind of thing. So that is not a very glamorous role. It doesn't get kids excited. The jack role, like in the passing down situations where he's going to be deployed more as a blitzer and a pressure guy, that is what guys like Jack Sawyer and CJ Hicks get excited about, is when you can actually be a downhill pressure player in the passing game, and they design literally, kind of exotic blitzes where you're the feature guy who gets to get home and kill the quarterback. And we didn't see that very much last year. I mean, honestly, we used Jack a lot in the the jack position a lot in the running game, but in terms of just like a pure exotic pass rusher, like he used it at Oklahoma State, we didn't see that at all, basically. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with, Larry Johnson loves 4-down defensive linemen. So, when it comes time to pass rush on 3rd down and his rushmen want to go get after the quarterback, he doesn't want it to be in a 3-down look. He doesn't want to have a zero nose who basically gets triple teamed in the middle and two, kind of head up defensive ends. Those ends out wide and 2-3 techniques, running twists, whatever. So I think that it's going to be fascinating to see how that goes, because I don't think that the Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson marriage got off to a great start with the jack position versus Larry's 4-down look. It didn't really work last year. So I think we're going to wrap this thing. Nevada, you got any final thoughts on the scrimmage? Week of practice in the books. We'll be back next week with another week of practice. And then the spring game is almost here, guys. It's going to be on the 15th of April. So again, it's going to be, you're going to blink and the season's going to be ready to roll. Any final thoughts, Nevada?
No, just big day for the Buckeyes. Really, really good scrimmage. Love seeing so many guys stepping up. Really can't ever remember a first scrimmage where this many guys stepped up and made plays, and the young guys that, when you talk about Carnell Tate and Noah Rogers and guys, I mean, these guys are coming, and you better get your roster ready as a fan for the fall, because you're not going to know who these guys are, but they're going to be playing. They're going to be playing a lot, and they're going to be playing early. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be fantastic. Again, it was a good day for the Buckeyes. Again, the most important part of spring ball is competition and health. You want these guys to finish out the season healthy. It makes your life a lot better knowing that we got through today relatively injury-free. So if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, subscribe to our channel, YouTube at buckeyesgroup.com. We appreciate you guys as always. Click that little alert bell if you enjoy these live shows. We love doing these with you. You guys bring great questions and we get great feedback. So we appreciate you guys as always. If you guys really love this stuff, buckeyesgroup.com. We were getting live scrimmage updates during the scrimmage. So that was fantastic. And it was really fun to just be posting kind of in real time what was going on. So we appreciate you guys as always. Give us a try. BuckeyesGroup.com, the #1 fan site for Ohio State sports. Again, it's the best. We have such a great community. It's super active right now. A lot of great stuff going on. If those of you traveling on spring break, be careful, be safe, have a blast wherever you're going. I know a lot of the schools are out this week, so enjoy yourselves. So as always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I will see you guys all on BuckeyeScoop.com. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.